Okay, so this is where we left off, where the populists, the farmers tried to connect with the labor unions, the workers in the labor unions, and that, if they were able to complete that, they would have been very, very powerful overall. Um, Populism did gain power during this time period, and they were elected to many state positions. So, like the governor of a state, state representatives, um, the populists began to take over certain areas, especially like Nebraska, some southern states like Georgia, um, Tennessee, Kentucky, some of those places that were kind of not completely the deep south, but kind of the Midwestern southern area. Um, in order to form more political alliances, especially like the Colored Farmers Alliance, they actually argued against racial discrimination. This actually caused some of the issue in the South that they lost some of their popularity in the South because the Southerners didn't want to form alliances or political alliances with someone that was African American because they didn't even think they should be voting. Um, the big idea there was basically that they were going to stop the monopoly. And the whole idea of this political cartoon here is that the monopoly is like this beasted dragon octopus thing, and not only is trying to take in all these different items that includes their livelihood, like cotton or wheat, and making money, but also their vote. Same idea here. They were finance monopolies, transportation monopolies, land monopolies, and they wanted to change that. They wanted to make sure that the small guy would have a say also. We talked already in notes 10.3 on Monday about the economic depression. So the Panic of 1873 actually helped the populism because people were looking for a change. They wanted something different because they felt like that if they could somehow be able to gain some political ground, that it would change some of the economic problems they were having. Um, One of the populist supporters' name was William Jennings Bryan. Now, he originally was a populist, but he actually runs for president under the Democratic Party. This is kind of like a catch 22 for the populists because Bryan was a big populist, supported a lot of their same positions, but when he runs under the Democratic Party, it actually kind of took out their need as a third party. During his run, he gave this speech called "The Cross of Gold." That's where a lot of the political cartoons I've shown you, the whole idea of gold. And the banks were arguing they should keep with the gold standard, and most of the populists at this time were arguing for free silver. The whole idea here is that silver would be used as a back for, and it was called the free coinage of silver, and that's why they called it free silver. Some of these ideas here showing the Democratic Party on this wagon of free silver, and their reputation obviously is going down. Um, and then if you look with this idea, prosperity in this political cartoon is, taking off and leaving him as the populace sent on a throne of free silver. Um, Brian's message was really this: that I will not let my country be crucified on a cross of gold. The idea that the gold standard is ruining our economy, and I don't think it's right that the economy should be sacrificed just so that we can hold this gold standard, keep inflation down for the big banks. That was the whole idea of it. Now, this is unlike other campaigns. Bryan personally campaigned. At this time period, most presidential candidates did not personally campaign. They had people that went out and campaigned for him. They would not go to campaign rallies. They were like almost where people wouldn't see them or know how they speak, completely different than we have today. This is one of the first times we really have a presidential candidate doing that. Now, we have Lincoln that did some of his own campaigning, but overall, Bryan was like the man of the people. He went to the farms, he went to the small towns, and spent a lot of time campaigning. It kind of is a precursor to what we know of campaigning today. Now, McKinley, basically, as you saw in some of those political cartoons, made them look like they were going to be a threat to the republic. The whole idea is they were going to have the government control every aspect of life. They were going to increase the overall, um, you know, coinage of with the free coinage of silver. They're going to increase the overall money in the system, cause inflation to rise, and it was going to be an issue um, overall. Um, the whole idea here is fanaticism. Made them look like they were crazy, off their rocker. They didn't really have any political significance and were very dumb, did not understand the economy. Under that premise, McKinley actually won. Now, we look at McKinley. He won in 1896, but also 1900. Bryan ran again. He ran 2 times. Actually, William Jennings Bryan will come back um, in the Scopes trial in the early 1900s. Um, he's a very colorful figure that you can find some interesting facts about. But anyway, the Populist Party did not gain power after endorsing Bryan as a Democratic candidate. And here's the reason why. You don't need a third party if your third party stands for and supports the already nominee for one of the two-party systems. In order for a third party to make it, they basically have to stand out away from one of the two-party systems, or they're just swallowed up by it. Um, so as you see here, the popular vote was a lot closer between Bryan and McKinley, but the electoral vote was definitely not. You can see that this northern and somewhat midwestern carrying of McKinley, and then we see this western and southern areas here for Bryan. Even though populism was short-lived, it encouraged other third parties to develop, such as progressives, where we'll actually have Teddy Roosevelt, who really was a progressive, even though they ran under a larger under a larger political party. Sometimes we still hear the term populism. People refer to it when they refer to people like Ralph Nader, George Wallace, the Tea Party. The same idea of the common people rising up from a grassroots type of organization and having a say in the government. The unition of farmers and union. That's things that we can kind of refer back to populism, but we don't see anything really like this where it was basically, a 10-year party that was very strong and then very weak. It was just very like a short snippet of time overall.